Why America is falling. That is the conversation in this video, folks. I'm John with Prepper Nation. Thank you very much for shooting a thumbs up and smashing the subscribe button here on the channel. Truly appreciate that. So, you've had a little bit of time to think about it. I proposed the question in this morning's video. What is the biggest problem conservatives have here in the United States of America, at least? And so you've had several hours, some of you, to think about this. And let's face it, America has a lot of problems. We have a ton of issues in this country. It really does feel like the wheels are falling off and, the boards are coming off at this point. I mean, the whole thing, the American experiment is beginning to just dilapidate into nothing. But specifically with conservatives here in the United States of America, okay? I'm a libertarian, so I'm speaking from the point of view of a libertarian, all right? I'm not saying I'm the end all be all voice on this, but what is the number one issue conservatives have? It seems to me that it seems to be. That's a mouthful. Conservatives cannot agree on who or what the real enemy is in this country. The biggest threat, if you will, to conservative America. Because again, liberals look at America with a totally different set of lenses that conservatives do. They're conservatives for a reason, conservative way of life. And I much prefer, let me just say I much prefer the conservative lifestyle as opposed to what liberals are trying to do. All right. Libertarians are very conservative. We just feel like conservatives don't go far enough. We want to see a little more hardline, if you will. So if I ask, here's the deal. If I ask, and I am asking, folks, if you're in the live chat or if you're a member of the replay crowd, answer the question. What is the biggest threat here in the United States for conservatives? I have a list of things that I'm going to shout off that I guarantee is going to be in the comments section, either the live chat or the comments section. Okay. Some people are going to say the swamp in DC. And I'm arguing with none of these, by the way, the swamp in DC. Other people are going to say, John, the illegals coming across the border. That's the biggest issue. That's the biggest threat right now. Some people are going to say the commies that are already in the country, the flip-flops on the ground, if you will, or the sleeper cells that have yet to activate. Some are going to say the death to the USA protesters, these folks that have the mindset and the beliefs from countries in the Middle East that inherently hate the United States. Some people, some conservatives will say Russia. Russia is the biggest threat. The spread of Russia and Europe, that's the biggest threat somehow. Others will say the CCP that we talked on this morning. Some people, and I've heard this and I agree with this as well, complacency, the inability to do anything and be inconvenienced whatsoever. And some people will say the existing world order, people that are ultra billionaires that just dictate to the rest of the world, including the United States, how we're going to live. So the bigger, broader question here, son, as we proposed this morning, how do we fix this? How do we fix this division? We must decide who the number one enemy is. What is the biggest threat to our freedom? All right. Again, as a libertarian, I'm not biting on mainstream media's narrative. The biggest threat to our democracy, we are not a democracy. I understand this. There's a difference between a democracy and a constitutional republic. And if you don't know what that difference is, drop a comment and ask. I'm sure somebody will answer it for you. Please be respectful if you leave an answer. By the way, if I see it, I'll try and answer it for you. But what is the biggest threat to our freedom here in the United States of America? Just look at conservatives in Congress. Look at conservatives in Congress for a second. If you want a blueprint on how conservatives operate, okay, you can go back several sessions of Congress, but take a look at the current Congress, the conservatives that are there. They constantly argue back and forth. You know, again, it's like a microcosm of what we're actually seeing in this country. Some of the congressmen and women are trying to impeach Biden because they think he's the biggest threat. Some of them are trying to stop TikTok and the CCP this way because they think that's the biggest threat. Some people are more focused on the border because they think that's the biggest threat. Some conservatives in Congress are obsessed at this point with helping Israel and helping Ukraine because they think Russia and the Middle East, those are the biggest threats. So it's crazy. They just argue. They can't agree on a real threat, like the biggest threat. And we see the same thing, I think, with conservatives here in the United States of America. Also, our Congress really has no leadership, or our House of Representatives, I should say. This is why every week, every 2 weeks, one of the Republicans is calling for the speaker, the current speaker's head or the previous speaker's head. It's because they don't get along. Therefore, they have no leadership. They're not galvanized whatsoever. Take a look at conservatives here in the United States of America. Same issue. No real leadership to speak of. Arguing back and forth. Can't agree on what the biggest threat or the biggest issue is when it comes to our freedom. Conservatives in America have fallen, I think, into that same trap. I'm going to give you something to help you put it in perspective, but there are lots of different examples that can be used here, but this is just one. Actually, I'll give you two. All right. The first one that I have written down here, we spent more as a country in Afghanistan at war with questionable gains, and that's a positive spin on it. Can anybody please tell me in the comments what we gained exactly by being in Afghanistan for so long at war? We didn't stop the spread of that ideology because, again, we're seeing it right now on college campuses. We're seeing it in Michigan, and it's spreading here in the United States. So what exactly did we gain there? All that money spent, all the human cost, unfortunately. Do you know that it cost more to be in Afghanistan while we were there than it would have to wipe out student debt here in the United States? Now, I'm not saying I'm for that. I'm not saying we should do that. But I'm saying I hear conservatives and they're okay a lot of times with being in the Middle East for 20 years. Well, it's money that we just have to spend. They can't tell you why. They can't tell you what's gained from it. But it's just money that we just got to throw at a problem. Right? But on the flip side, you have other conservatives that are like, maybe we should let Americans off the hook for student loan debt and interest. I'm not a fan of the interest part, to be honest with you. So they can join the workforce, pay taxes, not be strapped down so much, and boom the economy. But a lot of conservatives don't want to hear that. But here's a better example, actually. The spending bill that just passed. Some conservatives are okay with it. They're like, well, we've got to fund Ukraine. We've got to fund Israel. Do you remember when Donald Trump ran for president the first time around and he was talking about the border wall and the cost of the border wall, and people were livid, right? Democrats were like, we are not paying that money for a border wall to protect our country. And conservatives were like, we're not paying for it. Mexico's going to pay for it in a roundabout way through tariffs, etc. Okay. So the border wall never gets built, just partially, but I mean, let's face it, we still have an issue. We could have solved that issue at the border, lickety split. Do you know that the latest funding package for Israel and Ukraine is 5 times the cost of what it would have taken to fix that border and put the wall up as Trump had planned? Everybody was arguing back and forth on the cost of the border wall. Very few people are arguing on selling this money to Europe. You know, which is the bigger threat? Russia expanding out, the Middle East expanding out, or our own border? You tell me. You know, who or what is the biggest threat here in the United States? Pay attention to the comments. That's why I'm asking for so many comments on this video. Pay attention to them because they're going to be crazy divided. You're going to hear 100 different answers. Probably the first 100 comments, 100 different answers, and that's okay. I expect that to happen. But understand they're divided on purpose. Not by the people leaving them, but our establishment, the people that actually run things, our mainstream media, which is propaganda, folks, they divide conservatives on purpose. I'm not a fan of groupthink. I don't want us to be over here group thinking. But when you look at the left, group thinking is silly to me. It's very stupid and it's very dangerous, but they get things accomplished. Think about it. Think about it. Conservatives have had the House and the Senate, and they still couldn't accomplish anything. They really couldn't. They accomplished absolutely nothing but this back and forth and threatening the House speakers and stuff. When Democrats have the House and the Senate, which they're probably going to again, this next election, because in November, because it's the conservatives up there have been such a clown show in DC. But I digress. They're going to accomplish things. Now, these are not going to be good things, but they're going to accomplish things because the left at least has the ability to focus on one thing at a time. Again, I totally disagree with everything they stand for, but they'll focus on abortion. They'll get it done somehow. They'll focus on something else. They'll get it done somehow. They'll focus on the Second Amendment. They'll start cracking at it. They'll accomplish. They'll accomplish. They have the ability to do this. Conservatives do not. And mainstream media does a lot of this on purpose. They put stuff in front of conservatives that they know are going to divide you on purpose. When you really stop and think about it, and you think about all of the issues, now this is personal opinion on my part. Let me know what you think. When you think about all of the issues that I named off earlier, the border, the national debt, the swamp, the foreign wars, all of this stuff, there's only one country that is embedding itself here in the United States of America into our political system, into our judicial system, to our banking sector, into our schools, into our agriculture. One country is doing this. It ain't Russia. It's not Iran. It's not North Korea. It's not Canada or Mexico or Guatemala. One country is doing this, the one that has primed, I think and believe, to cyber attack us at will. Only one. People need to wake up and they need to come together on the conservative side of things. Sorry to tell you, but it's true. As I've always heard, divided we fall, right? I think there's still time if people come together, but I think the plan is to continue to divide people so they don't come together until it's too late. Every conservative has their own line in the sand. Well, if they come after my Second Amendment, I'm grabbing the musket. If they legalize abortion, I'm grabbing the musket. If we lose an election, I'm grabbing them up. Everybody has their own line in the sand. We need a unified line in the sand. And we need to be focused on the real enemy here in the United States of America. That's just my opinion, right? How should Israel and Ukraine spend all of that money that we just sent to them, or that we just greenlit? $95 billion with a B. How should they spend it, and what could we have spent it on here in the United States of America? That's next video's topic. Be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Take care, and God bless.